A Republican and former hedge fund CEO David McCormick announced that he's running for the Senate. He's joining a wide field of candidates, including current Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, John Fetterman. He's been on our show, and Dr. Oz, and he's been on our show.
I'm here in Media, Pennsylvania in Delaware County, and I've got my 150 pickup. We're making our way across this great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Today's the first day of my campaign, and I couldn't be more excited and enthusiastic about the opportunity and the potential privilege of serving the people of Pennsylvania.
So when candidates announce that they're running, it's our obligation here at a news organization to have people on if they want to come on when they announce. And that's why David McCormick is here now. David, thank you.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
Do you go by Dave or David?
Dave.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to call you Dave then.
Okay.
And I only got like 3.5, 4 minutes with you, so we probably don't have time to talk about the real issues. But we don't know you so well in this part of the state. I think they know you better around the Pittsburgh area. So let's do a segment, get to know Dave McCormick. Where were you born?
Great. I was born in Washington, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh, and then grew up in Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, up near Wilkes-Barre, Scranton.
So you went to Bluebird High?
Yes, sir.
And then, wasn't your dad the president?
My dad was the president of Bloomsburg State College,
yeah.
And we had a family farm there, and I went to high school there and worked there, baling hay and trimming Christmas trees in our farm.
Baling hay.
Baling hay, and
wow.
then I was a busboy, and then played sports and hunted and all the things that rural Pennsylvania kids do, and then I went to West Point.
West Point, on the wrestling team at West Point. Thank you for your service. You are an Army vet?
Yes, sir. I went to the 82nd Airborne Division. I was a Ranger, and then served in the first Gulf War as the first unit deployed really to Saudi Arabia once Saddam Hussein invaded. Yeah,
you got a Bronze Star.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Thank you for your service. You worked in the Bush administration?
Yeah, I worked for. I was in Pittsburgh for a decade after I came back from the Army, and I was a CEO of a company there called Free Markets, which created about 600 jobs. Mm-hmm. And I left Pittsburgh. We sold the company. I left Pittsburgh, although the job stayed in Pittsburgh. And I went to Washington for the second term of the George Bush administration, Bush 43, and worked in a couple of jobs in the White House and then the Treasury.
You're married? I'm
married to Dina Powell. We have 6 kids between us, and she was a senior person in the Bush administration, and then went on and worked for President Trump for 2 years as the Deputy National Security Advisor.
How did she get that position? What were the qualifications for national security?
Well, she is an immigrant from Egypt. Her family, she's a Coptic Christian. Her family was persecuted. She came to the United States, and she grew up in Dallas, Texas, and then she went to UT, worked near the State House, and ultimately got to know President Bush. Okay. When he was Governor Bush. So she worked for 8 years in the Bush administration in senior positions in the White House, and then in the State Department. And when President Trump was elected, she had never met President Trump, nor had I, but she was asked to interview for a number of jobs, and ultimately ended up working as a Deputy National Security Advisor for H.R. McMaster, who was someone that I had worked with in the Army. He was a general now, but so it's a small world.
There's a lot. You have a lot of competition. My goodness, the field is large, especially on the Republican side, but also a lot of Democrats. So, we had Dr. Oz on. He's got national recognition. You need to catch up.
Well, listen, when you do something like this, at least for me, I think this is a calling. I think the country is headed in the wrong direction. I think that we're at real risk of the American dream that we've all been the beneficiaries of fading away and not being available for our kids. And I think it's urgent. And I think this Senate seat is really critical. So when I was thinking about it, it was really a call to service. I have a servant's heart. I've served public service for 13 years of my life, 9 in the military, 4 in the government. And this seemed like a way to potentially serve as someone who's, kind of battle tested and Pennsylvania true, and someone who's really an outsider. And so I'm going to, do my best to make my case to the great people of the Commonwealth and and I would have the privilege, if elected, to really represent the great state of Pennsylvania.
So there's been so much talk about from the other candidates about, well, you were living in Connecticut for a while. I think one person who's running just moved here from California. Dr. Oz is even New York or New Jersey. He's living at his in-laws' house. You have a residence here.
I have two residences. I have a family farm that my folks bought 45 years ago, and I bought it from them about 10 years ago. That's in Bloomsburg, where I grew up. And then I have a home in Pittsburgh that I bought recently. I had lived in Pittsburgh for a decade, so I bought a new home, though, a couple blocks from where I lived before.
Okay. If you're elected, would you basically be a Senator Trump?
Listen, if elected, I would certainly be advocating very strongly for America First policies that President Trump put in place. I think the country was headed in the right direction under President Trump, and ultimately is going in the wrong direction now under President Biden and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. So that America First agenda is really critical.
Yeah,
and I think
you would call yourself a Trump Republican, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd call myself an America First conservative. I think President Trump really did great things for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, but I'm also an outsider and a fighter. In other words, I'm a self-made person. I don't owe anybody anything, so I would go to Washington with one goal, which is to push back on the direction, the woke and the weakness that's really pushing our country in the wrong direction. And I'd go as someone who could fight for the people of this great Commonwealth.
You know, I hear that a lot. You're fighting against the woke mob. What does woke mean?
Well, here's what it means to me. I think there's two things that have happened. One, I think there's a set of the left is really pushing on our value system, the exceptionalism of America, America's role in the world, our great history, in ways that is really undermining our confidence and really pushing us in ways that I think contradict American values. And then I think there's a number of bad policies that have been put in place under President Biden, which are really hurting the people of Pennsylvania, whether it's energy policy or secure borders or the economic policy. It's really pushing our country in a way that we're becoming more socialist and I think more at risk.
It almost seems like the person who's going to get this on the Republican side is going to be the one that's endorsed by President Trump. Do you think you'll get his endorsement?
Well, listen, President Trump, in my mind, did great things for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and I think promoting that agenda is really critical. As I said, my wife worked for him. I know President Trump.
You can get his endorsement?
I'm not sure what he'll do. I would certainly value and appreciate his endorsement. I'd be thrilled to get it if he chose it, but I don't know what he's going to do. I haven't talked to him about it.
Okay. Are you a Steelers fan? Mm-hmm.
Listen. Here's what I am. I'm a Pennsylvania fan. I hope that. I hope that the Eagles stick it to Tom Brady.
Thank you.
And I would love a Pennsylvania Super Bowl. That would be a great thing for all of us.
Steelers,
that would be something.
Eagles, and could you possibly denounce Sidney Crosby live on our air right now?
Come on, cut me a break. Cut me a break.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll see you down the road as we get closer to the election.
Looking forward to it.
You got it. All right.
Thanks a lot. Nice to see you. Bye-bye.